What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is Hawk Talk on Melrose, second episode of the week. We're recording this on Wednesday night, a few nights before Iowa takes on Rutgers inside Kinnick Stadium for the third to last regular season game, which is hard to believe that the season is winding down and that we are already in almost the middle of November. So, what is going on, Tyler? How was your day? How's your week been? It's been going by fast for me. I'm sure for you as well.
Yeah, it's been busy at work, and it makes for a fast week. And we're already here recording the pod on Wednesday night. And yeah, you kind of touched on it before. It's like the season's really coming to a close, and we talked about it on the last episode where it's our last home game for me and you, because we're not going to the Illinois game. So it's bittersweet because it's like, obviously I love the tailgating, I love going to the games and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, with this offense, sometimes it's like, well, it sometimes is a little tough to watch, but obviously I wouldn't not go to the game. I mean, it's too much fun. So
Yeah, exactly. Everything about the game itself sometimes sucks, but the tailgating, just being with people, I mean, it's always a blast. So,
yeah,
what we're gonna do today is we're gonna talk a little the Nick Brooks situation, him decommitting. We'll get into kind of the last, and I have a spreadsheet that I'm gonna share. And people watching on YouTube is going to be able to see this. If not, we'll do our best job explaining kind of the race to win the West. I have just some scenarios. In the West, obviously, is horrible, so it's not really saying much if we do win. But obviously, at the end of the day, like, I don't care if we're gonna get blown out. Like, I want to make it to the Big Ten championship game because it's like, why would you not? So we'll talk a little about that. We'll get into the Iowa Rutgers game a little bit, and then I do want to briefly go over next year's schedule because they came out with the dates, they came out with the times, and I just have some notes on that as well. So, kind of a jam-packed episode, but we'll try to keep it as short as possible for all you guys out there. So let's get right into it. Nick Brooks, offensive lineman, 2025 class. He committed the day before the Iowa State game. It was kind of a feel good, just a good weekend to kick
yeah,
off Cyhawk week with that huge commit. He's a 4-star. Top 15 offensive tackle in the nation, and just a big dude. And like, you knew he was probably gonna start on day one, if not like within the first couple of years. He was gonna be a really good football player for us. And yesterday comes out kind of out of the blue. He decommitted, and now we see like Colorado is knocking on the door. Texas Tech, some of these teams that have a lot of NIL, and you probably wonder if that was probably the big thing. I don't know. It's just, for me, it sucks because it starts at the offensive line. You know, we keep talking about like improving this offense, and the only way we're going to improve is at the start of the offensive line, and offensive line play has not been good for us. Well, when you keep losing players like him, we lose. Can't even think of his name last year. Didn't come to
Aiden
Iowa.
Proctor.
Yeah, Caden Proctor went to Alabama. Like, you start losing these guys that like you should be getting, or that literally commit to you, and then you lose them. It really sucks because it starts at the offensive line, especially at a place like Iowa. And so this is a massive decommit, and
Yeah,
you never know. Maybe he'll end up committing back to Iowa, but I highly doubt it. Usually, when you commit somewhere and
yeah,
you decommit, but then commit, I mean, it's just usually it's a lost cause at that point. So yeah, just that's kind of my initial reaction to that.
yeah. I kind of have the same thoughts as you, Colin. We've kind of talked about how really inconsistent this offensive line's been for quite some time now, and that dating back to not just this year but last year, and kind of the year before a little bit. It's like, yeah, it starts with the offensive line. Everything is predicated on good line play. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. And man, back, like, I feel like we were like, Iowa is known for producing good linemen, and I just feel like that has not been the case. Well, part of the problem is, yeah, when you've got highly talented guys that are committed to you and then they decommit for, whatever reason. I mean, that has a lot to do with it. You just mentioned 5-star Caden Proctor, 4-star Nick Brooks now. I mean, yeah, imagine like next year those two guys like on our offensive line. Like, that's huge. And
Well, for
you
Brooks,
know,
it'd be the year after. because
Or
it
yeah, true.
class of 2025. But yeah,
Yeah, good point. Good point. But yeah, just like you lose those talented guys, and Iowa's not necessarily going to get the most talented people out there. I think me and you kind of accept that as Iowa fans, but when you've
yep.
got them, they're committed. You got to do everything you can to try to keep them. And I think it's a microcosm of a bigger issue, which is the offense as a whole. The offensive line hasn't been very good. Why do highly talented offensive linemen want to come to Iowa? I mean, to not really be able to run block for guys, not be able to pass block. I mean, our offense isn't good right now. And, did that have something to do with it? Like you said, does the NIL play a factor? I'm sure it all does. I didn't see, did he necessarily give a reason? I didn't really see one, but.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing it's probably a little bit with money, NIL, a little bit with just, the state of the offense. Probably a little bit has to do with the uncertainty of who's the new offensive coordinator. Is Kirk going to be around by 2025? I'm sure that has a little bit to do with it. There's probably a mix of factors, but regardless, it still sucks. I mean, you go back
it's hard
to
overcome it for sure.
You go back to like 2017, 2018, 2019, and we go back and you look at like we actually were putting up decent amount of points. It wasn't great, but like we were at least putting up 30 points, 40 points once in a while. Well, we had guys like Tristan Wirfs. We had guys like Alaric Jackson, right? Like we had good offensive line. It starts up there. We haven't had that play the last how many years. And this year it's been even, just kind of like the last couple of years. It's been better this year compared to like 2021, 2022, but it's still not great.
Right. And then the center that I'm blanking out on went to the Ravens, I think. What's his name?
Linderbaum. Yeah, like he was really good.
Like we at least had one guy where we could be we can count on him to kind of stabilize things for at least a little bit with the offensive line. Yeah. And then you can kind of adjust around them. But we don't even have that one guy right now, I feel like, to even be able to do that, which is a reason why we aren't very good, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely sucks. And, it's just kind of like, I tweeted this yesterday. It should be a wake-up call. 2 years in a row of this should be a wake-up call to Kirk and co.
100%.
That it's like, and it's not just the offensive line, it's receivers, losing receivers, right? Who knows who we will lose this year? I mean, like, I'm convinced Caleb Johnson's going to walk out. I mean, after, him not playing at all this last game. And then, someone asked Kirk yesterday at the presser, and his answer was kind of like, we'll see. It just depends on, who's having the better practice. He said something along those lines. It's just like, what? Like, what is going on? So, like, how many guys are we going to lose this? I don't know. It should just be a wake-up call. Like, hey, you're not doing the job on offense. Like, figure something out. Do something different. Yep. So, yeah, we'll leave it at that. It's going to be interesting come December. When the transfer portal opens, like how many guys leave. And then also, like, I know last year we did a really good job in the transfer portal getting guys to come, but will we be able to do that again? I think it all depends on who we bring in as OC. And if Kirk actually brings in somebody good, then maybe we will be able to keep some of these guys or at least go out and get some guys. So I guess we'll just
really quick. And that's why it's important when they do, that and they're probably already starting that search, but that they kind of get that done as quickly as possible so that the recruits know and, that they have some sort of clarity going in and knowing what they're going to get. Right. So,
yep, exactly. All right, let's move to the next topic. I'm going to share my screen for people watching on YouTube. If not, like I said, we'll do the best job. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So what I did was I had the Big Ten West standings, and what I highlighted in blue is kind of what I think. And this is pretty obvious, like kind of the contenders to win the West. I think Illinois, Northwestern, Purdue, they're all at 4 or 5 losses. Like they're not going to be contenders. I mean, there's only 3 games left. So I highlighted the 4 blue. And then what I did down here was I went through each team of these teams in the blue, not the entire, Big Ten West. And what I kind of think is like the likely scenario. And then also like maybe the other scenarios. So like Minnesota, they have 3 games left. I keep saying it. I do not think Minnesota is a very good football team. They play at Purdue, at Ohio State, Wisconsin. I think they go 1-2. You could make the case, like, I mean, even though Purdue sucks, like I could see them going on the road and losing them. But 1-2, I think another scenario is like maybe 2-1, where like maybe they win at home against Wisconsin in the year, but I think 1-2 is like the likeliest scenario for them. So they would finish like 4-5, 6-6. Wisconsin, now they play like shit against Indiana, and after you lose to Indiana, like you probably think
Right.
like, yeah, this team is, how many more games are they going to win? But they should be getting back Braylon Allen. They should be getting back Tanner Mordecai at some point. And I still think like they are good enough to beat like Northwestern at home, good enough to beat Nebraska at home. And then that Minnesota game's kind of a toss up. But I have them like they could probably finish the year off going 3-0, especially if they get Braylon Allen back, which would end up being 6-3 in Big Ten play. And then Nebraska, like I have like 2-1, Maryland, and unfortunately maybe Iowa. Other scenario would probably be like 1-2, which would probably be like a loss to Iowa. But if that's the case, they'd go finish like 5-4 in the Big Ten. And then Iowa, and I said this on the last episode, I do think we're going to lose one of the next 2 games at home. I just have that feeling with our offense. And then possibly losing at Nebraska, which we would finish 1-2 to end the year. Or the other scenario, 2-1, which wouldn't be bad. And that would be like winning one of the next 2 games and then at Nebraska.
Right.
So what my scenario, my likely scenario, what I think if this would happen, Wisconsin would actually end up winning the West at 6-3, and we would be 5-4 in the Big Ten. Or the other scenario, which I'm hoping this happens, but Iowa would win the West by going 6-3. So essentially, I still think Iowa can afford to lose one more game. But if they lose 2 more games, I don't think they'll make it. They can afford to lose one more, just given some of these teams. And, they like Wisconsin, for example, right now they are 3-3. We're 4-2. Plus we have the head-to-head. So essentially it's like them having 4 losses right now for us. Right.
Yeah.
And Minnesota still has to play Ohio State. And, so that's 4. So we can afford to lose one more. So I really think like if we go 2-1, we're in it. If we go 1-2, which I'm really definitely afraid we will, like, and I'm not just saying that, and I hope I'm dead wrong. It's not me, like if it does happen, like, yep, see, told you. Like I hope I'm dead wrong when I say that. I just feel like with this offense, like one of these next 2 games we are dropping. I don't know why I feel so confident in that. I hate saying that, but it just, both of these 2 games, it's going to be a low-scoring affair, and just one of them is just not going to go our way. There's just going to be something stupid that happens, and we just lose by 3 or 7 points. So, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to say. It's frustrating listening to you say that because I tend to agree with you a little bit. It's like, it's like we are way better than Rutgers and Illinois on paper. But then when you start looking at it, it's like, well, no, every game's a 1-possession game. It doesn't matter if we're playing Rutgers, Illinois, or like we just played Northwestern. We literally escaped with a win against Northwestern.
Exactly.
I need to repeat that. It's like, this wasn't, yes, our defense and special teams, well, besides, I guess Torrey wasn't very good, but our defense was amazing. But it doesn't matter when you can't do anything on offense. So I agree with you. I think if you tell me right now we beat Rutgers and Illinois, I agree with you. I think we're in the Big Ten championship.
Even if we lose in Nebraska end of the year.
Because I picked, and and this was before I knew how bad our offense was going to get this year. I actually had Iowa losing at Nebraska, just like when we did our preseason stuff.
Like just to start the year. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they have a pretty good offense. Well, I thought they were going to, and then their defense is actually not horrible.
Their defense is good.
Yeah,
that's going to be a low scoring game.
It will be, and that's the thing. It's like when you're talking low scoring game, when you're talking 1-possession game, it really goes either way, right? And so I don't know. You hope that the offense can find something these next couple of games, because you can get these 2 at home, then I think you're in. But it's just hard to say right now. We're not good on offense. So I think a likely scenario is probably 1-2 right now, if I had to make a prediction as well.
But I think at the end of the day, like, long story short, I think it's going to come down to Iowa, Wisconsin. I think those are kind of the 2 teams. Yeah. I think Wisconsin's still in it because their schedule the rest of the year, it's a joke if you think about it. Northwestern at home, Nebraska at home. And Nebraska, when you talk Nebraska, yes, their defense is good, but their offense is horrible this year. Because they're like Iowa. They have so many injuries. on the offensive side. They lost so many guys, and then their quarterback didn't pan out, so they're on to their other quarterback, and they lost 2 other running backs out for the year. They lost one of the receivers out for the year. Like, holy cow. 2 of their offensive linemen are hurt. So,
dude, that's why that Minnesota game was so annoying the way that it ended.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Because we win that game,
you take the punt return off the board. Like you win off that. I mean, this is a different conversation right now, right?
And I forgot to mention this. Like, and I sent this to you last night. I was amazed that we are ranked 22 in the college football playoff. And Austin made a good point. He said, dude, if we would have just beat Minnesota, we'd probably be like 12 or 13 right now because we'd be 7 or we'd be 8-1.
I was gonna say, I bet we're
definitely top 15.
20, but yeah, probably top 15.
I mean, if we're 22 right now at 7-2 with a bad loss to Minnesota at home, like you win that game, we're probably top 15 for sure. Which is just crazy. Like I was like, and they said, I saw a tweet that like the reasoning of why Iowa is where they're at, and they're like kind of like what you keep saying, or what everyone keeps saying is like, we got to give like this elite defense some credit. And that's kind of what the head of the college football playoff committee said, was like, yes, the offense is struggling and bad, but like the other 2 phases of the game are like really good. And it's like, you're kind of like giving them like, they're like, you're deserved credit, of what they're doing. So I thought that was, I was just very surprised by that. I did not think we'd be right, but here we are. And not only like, I thought if we would be like 25, I was just like, but someone also made a good point here. Every time I feel like we get ranked, we lose the following week. It's like we get those numbers next to our name and we end up losing. And that's what kind of sucks.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
So let's get into this game a little bit. Rutgers, kind of a unique team, like because we don't play them very often. Boy, if you would have just looked at the box score of their game against Ohio State, but didn't look at the score, you would have thought that they would have won that game. They had 23 first downs to Ohio State's 15. They only gave up 15 first downs to Ohio State's offense. Total yards, they had 361. They held Ohio State to 328, which is really good. Rushing yards, they held Ohio State to 139, and they had 232 rushing yards. So if like you would have seen that, you would have been like, how the hell did they lose this game? And there was a point, which I didn't realize this. So they were up 9-7, Rutgers was, and they were about ready to score. This was in the third quarter. So the score literally in the third quarter was 9-7.
Yep.
They were holding Ohio State to 7 points.
They were winning at halftime. Yeah.
Yep. Think about like, okay, if they're holding Ohio State, a good offense,
right?
I can't even like, how are we even going to be able to score? But anyway, so they held them in the third quarter. It was 9-7. Rutgers was driving. They were at the 20-yard line. If they would have scored, they would have got up like 16-7.
Yeah.
But what happened, and I don't know if you saw that.
Oh yeah, I did.
93-yard pick six.
And that like it was crazy. Like changed the whole game. Obviously,
it changed the entire game. And after that, it was just like
they kind of
And the final score.
That.
Final score was 35-16. You take away that pick six, it was like 28-16. So Rutgers held its own. I mean, they did a really good job. You look at their schedule and kind of, they went 3-0 non-conference. They beat Northwestern pretty handily, a team that we struggled against. They lost at Michigan, but Michigan's just another beast. They should have lost to Michigan State at home. That was probably their worst game of the season. Michigan State's obviously not very good. They were down 24-6, and they came back and won 26-24 or 27-24. They beat Indiana 31-14. So, I mean, like, not a bad team. And this is what scares me. They're definitely better than Minnesota. They're definitely better than Northwestern. And I just think, like, if we want to win this game, like, there's areas of the game, like Deacon Hill, you can't turn the ball over, man. You turn the ball over against them, like, we're probably going to lose. And just like we say at every game, we're going to have to hope special teams or defense gets some sort of points.
Yeah, that or a short field again. I mean, right? Like, that's how we scored our touchdown against Northwestern off a block punt, got a short field and capitalized. Yeah, 100% agree with you. I mean, Rutgers, like, I think they're kind of getting to that tough part of their schedule now where, and my thing is that the thing that I like is they just played an emotional game against Ohio State, right? Had that lead. Obviously, like you highlighted the pick that was a touch that they returned for a touchdown to Ohio State. Very demoralizing, kind of changed that whole outcome of the game. How are they feeling coming into this week? I would be way more nervous if they just came off a win against Ohio State. I can tell you that. So, I think that's probably maybe took a lot out of them. Iowa, we're going to have to, like you said, we're going to have to play clean football. Deacon Hill, if anything, please, for the love of God, don't turn the ball over. I just can't count on that. He does every game, Collin.
If there's a good bet to do, obviously taking the under of every game, but then either like an interception, fumble, player prop for Deacon Hill, because it's almost a given it's going to happen. Unfortunately,
he can't even hold on to it. He's just going to get swatted out of his hands, right? Like as of late. So, no, that's you make an excellent point. I mean, that very well could be the game. So, playing clean football and doing just enough, I guess, on offense. Again, like I
just don't know how we score.
I don't either. Because I think Rutgers' defense is really good, and they actually have a really good running back, that Manung guy, or however you pronounce his last name.
Yeah,
he's actually a stud.
I'm not too worried about their offense doing much, but I mean, you never know. I mean, they might break a run. They might. I just think our defense is playing at such a high level right now that I'm not too worried. But there's going to be a couple drives every game, just like it happens, because our offense sucks so much, and they're on the field for so much. Like there's going to be a few drives where they actually go down the field. It just happens every time.
It's very sad for this to come out of my mouth, but I'm not worried about their offense. I'm just worried that they might score like 10 points, and that's too much. That's the predicament that I'm in. If they score twice, they score 2 touchdowns. I don't know how we get over 14 points. I'll be honest, I don't see that.
Yeah.
My prediction, real quick, I'm going to say Iowa pulls out another late game win, 13-10. It's at home. I think we're a 1.5 point favorite. I saw,
I believe so. I should look right now while you're talking.
13 might be too much, to be honest with you, but I'll say we get 13. I'll say our defense comes up with a play late to stop them, and we seal the game for us 13-10.
Yeah, I was a 1 point favorite, 20.5. So someone made a good point.
Just keeps getting lower every week.
Someone said something on Twitter or something. They're like, honestly, I'm kind of like, as much as I don't want this to happen, I almost kind of want to get down like 10-0 and just see, because it seems like lately we get up and then we're on cruise control and we don't even do anything. And it's like, this is so boring. But if you get down, you're forced
or have the lead, we are ultra conservative.
Yes.
For sure.
And if you're down by multiple possessions or whatever, you're forced to actually try to attack and try to be aggressive. And
I said that on the last episode. I said, why did it take for that last possession? Of course, because we're tied, for us to actually move down the field and complete a 23-yard pass to Caleb Brown, his first of the season. You're right. Maybe I would never wish that, but it's like maybe that's what it takes. I don't know. I
wrote this down literally before you said it, 13-10 as well, which is taking the easy way out, because I'm pretty sure the last 3 games I had like 13-10 as like the final score. It's like that. I mean, I'm to the point where that's literally where every game it kind of ends up being. So it's easy to say 13-10 or, because that's given like me, but are we going to score a touchdown? I don't know. Like,
can I say this on the pod? If we're not going to score, can we please, if we win the toss, just defer, please, just once? Why receive it? We're not going to do anything with that first possession. We never do.
Well, like Joseph said, I never even thought about this. I know I shared it to you, but I'm going to share it to the people listening. But I think Kirk's philosophy is he really thinks that, okay, if we get the ball right away, if we just get like 1 first down, or even if we don't get a first down, Dory Taylor, punt it as far, and then you just start playing a field position game, because if they're getting that like the 10-yard line, Because if we get like that
That's
first,
true.
if we get one first down on that drive, more than likely Torrey Taylor is going to punt it to probably the 10-yard line or maybe even,
Right.
closer to the end zone. And at that point, then you're starting to play the field position game.
So in Kirk's eyes, that's a win for him. Okay.
Yes. And it's also obviously a win if just for some, you could go down the field. But I really think that is why they do that. And think about it. Northwestern game, remember the first drive? We actually went down the field. We elected not to kick a field goal. We punted the football when we could have kicked the field goal because it was at the same spot, but we decided to punt because Kirk knew, okay, hey, we punt now. We pin them deep, and now we're just going to play the field position game for the entire rest of the half or quarter.
Is the only way I think that it actually makes sense, and I think you're exactly right. I think that's a
give credit to Joseph for that thinking, because I never really thought of it. I could not wrap my head around why we do that. And I love how the announcers were trying to say like, oh, they did it because to prove a message. It's like, no, they've been doing it forever.
It's a statement that I really believe after all the controversy that they're coming out and they're going to make us. It's like, stop. We do this all the time. Yeah.
Clearly they didn't do their homework on that. But no, I mean, it's a big game for Iowa. Yeah, 13-10.
Yeah, 100%. I think you have to for sure win one of the two home games minimum to have a shot, right? I think at this point, and you're exactly right. This is a huge game.
I said we're going to lose one of the next two. I'm still like, I don't really know if it's going to be Rutgers or if it's going to be Illinois. I'm just going to go Illinois just because like Brett Bielema, like I'm a little bit more worried about like him. Even though I think Rutgers is probably the better team than Illinois, it just seems like Bielema, like, I don't know, back when he was at Wisconsin, like just, he has the Iowa tattoo, right?
Knows,
like, he
knows how
he's kind of like Pat Fitzgerald, like he wants that win. He wants that game. And like, they're going to be really physical. Illinois is going to be really physical. And that game, like I could see us definitely losing. So I'm going to go more, like I'm leaning more towards like that being the loss. And then, getting the dub this weekend. So weather-wise looks great. 52 degrees. Cannot complain for November 11th. Like that is as good of weather as you could ask for November 11th.
Warmest like game this late in the season that you can remember?
It might be. I remember 2 years ago it was like this weekend because it was like the second week in November when I came up to Waterloo, and remember we went out and then the next day we went to Iowa Minnesota game and Cody was with us. I remember how cold that game was because I brought like hand warmers and jacket, like a huge jacket. I remember it being really cold that day. And like this one, it's going to be like crew neck and jeans. So I'm really looking forward to that. So, all right, one last thing before we get off. I want to share my screen one more time for people on YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube, I apologize. The schedule for next year, because it came out with the times. Now, I did not realize this until like last week, but we have 2 buys next week or next year, which is great. And every team has 2 buys because next year Thanksgiving is like later in the year. It's like November 28th compared to like this year, November 23rd. So there's that extra week. So essentially, you're going to have that extra week, which is going to be a bye because you're not going to play 13 games. They're going to stay at 12. So for me, like, okay, so like the non-conference, we should go 3-0. Now, once again, this is all like, we don't know what the roster makeup's going to be, or even like these teams, but just initial thought. So should go 3-0. Iowa State will probably be better next year. They're going to be returning. I mean, they're so young this year. They'll have Rocco back. This will be going into Kinnick. This will be like his 14th game start. So like he's going to have experience. Like they're going to be decent, but we should go 3-0. At Minnesota, man, like if we would have won again this year, I would have been like, okay, one of these years we're losing. But I think this is going to be a revenge game. Any person that is going to be still on the team, hopefully Cooper Jean is coming back next year. This will be a game that they are going to want because just kind of the way that game ended and about how PJ Fleck was such a douche after that game. Like I really think like this is going to be that revenge game. And I think we're going to go into Minneapolis and win that game. So we're setting up a good like first quarter of the year. And then I love where the bye is. Like, okay, you play 4 games. We're going to be kind of hurt. Like, let's get a bye week in there. At Ohio State, that's an automatic loss. Like, it's not going to happen. It's like the Penn State game this year. You hope and pray that we can compete. But that's more than likely a loss. Now, Saturday, October 12th, man, like I circled this. Because if we're like 4-1, this is a massive game inside Kinnick. Not only because it's a kind of a unique opponent, Pac-12 team, right? Coming to Kinnick. It's going to be hopefully a beautiful fall day. Like this game is going to feel huge inside Kinnick. Probably will be a night game or an afternoon game.
Like Penn State kind of atmosphere, like feel to it for sure.
Yep. And if you're 4-1, man, like
game,
like it's gonna be awesome. And who knows like what will happen, but I'm not gonna say win or loss now, but that's just gonna be a big game. And then you play at Michigan State. Now, Michigan State, big question for them is who's their next head coach. And whoever their next head coach is, like it's gonna take just like every other program. It usually takes 1 or 2 years, right? So like we kind of have them at a good spot. Now we have to go on the road, but like, it's not unless they bring in some really, really good head coach and they, bring in a bunch of transfers and they're actually a lot better. That game doesn't worry me that much. Northwestern at home, I'll take that. I'll take a Big Ten West team. Wisconsin at home, which they're going to be obviously better with Fickle, but we're at home. Then at UCLA, which is probably out of all the Pac-12 teams, probably the easiest team, right? You're going to have to face
one that are joining that to play for sure.
Then I love where this
on the road.
Yep. I love where this second bye is because think about if there wasn't a bye at UCLA, West Coast, at Maryland, East Coast. That'd be way too much traveling. So we get that bye week to kind of finish off the year at Maryland. What's one thing with Maryland? As the year goes on, they start sucking. So honestly, playing them on November 23rd is probably a good thing versus playing them like week 4.
Yeah.
And then you get Nebraska at home. So honestly, like looking at the schedule, like, yes, you at Ohio State, really tough. UCLA, it's just going to be tough because it's going to be like on the road, a place that you never really play at. But like, it's really not
It could have been a lot harder.
Yeah. You get 4 Big Ten West teams, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Northwestern, at Michigan State, at Maryland, probably the 2 not hardest East teams that you would normally, so what I'm saying is like
middle tier East teams, right?
Yeah,
or less,
it's
right?
Definitely a manageable schedule outside of that back-to-back at Ohio State, Washington at home. But at least you get Washington at home. I mean, look at our home schedule next year, man. Like Iowa State, Washington, Wisconsin, Nebraska. Like that is a great homestand.
Season tickets, folks. That's worth it right there.
No.
I mean, man. Yeah, no. Look, just like you said, when you break it down that way and you really look at it, it's not out of the realm of possibility to have a good season for sure. And again, this is all early. This is, we're not even.
We don't
know
how.
So we don't know.
Washington's going to look next year without Penix and their really stud wide receiver. We don't know how Maryland's going to look without their quarterback or Minnesota. Are they who knows if Northwestern's going to bring in some transfer quarterback that's actually really like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's so hard to judge, but just basing it off like this initial, it's like, okay, we can work with this. Like I can work with this.
I'm the same with you. I really like the placement of where the 2 buys are.
Yep.
You get, like you said, you get that break after the first quarter of the season. Then you play
hopefully you're 4-0.
State team. Right. And you're exactly right. After that first month, get healthy. Get geared up for that next phase of the season. And then, like you said, at the end of the year, get a nice break as well. So, I love the 2 buys. That's awesome.
Yep, for sure. And like I said, every team's going to have 2 buys. It's not just us having 2 buys. It's just the way the schedule operates next year with the essentially 1 extra week with Thanksgiving being late. So,
God, the end of that season, Collin, is not that difficult, really, when you look at it. Just on paper.
No.
Like Wisconsin, UCLA, Maryland, Nebraska. I mean, it could have been a lot tougher than that, I think.
Because, and like I said, at UCLA, is intimidating kind of, but like I said, out of all the Pac-12 teams that are coming to the Big Ten, they are.
You're talking Oregon, USC, Washington, UCLA, right?
Yes.
If we're playing a West Coast team on the road, I would prefer UCLA. They are, of the 4 currently, this year, they're probably the worst.
Yeah.
So, I agree.
I mean, and we get out of the 9 Big Ten games, 4 of them are Big Ten West opponents, teams that we are familiar with. Yeah. So can you go 4-0 against those teams? And that's huge.
Another thing. We're going to 9 Big Ten games, right?
Well, we already are at 9 Big Ten games
Oh, okay.
now because
Okay.
we play 6 Big Ten West teams and then 3
That's
crossovers.
right. That's right.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
but yeah, I mean, I don't know.
A lot of good matchups, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, and with the new TV Big Ten or the new TV schedule and everything, I'm sure a lot of these games are going to be, on great times again and great windows. So
Yep.
I'm excited.
And honestly, like, I hate bye weeks, but like, I honestly think every year, every team should have 2 byes because I mean, football is such a physical sport. Guys get hurt, guys get banged up that like, I don't know, like it almost seems like 1 bye week is like almost not enough. And I think the same thing like in the NFL. Extend the NFL 1 more week and have 2 byes, because especially with, you see all these injuries, you see guys banged up. Have one at the beginning of the year or like, and then have one towards the end of the year. Like, I don't know why. I mean, I won't complain for having an extra week of NFL because essentially that's what it'd be. If you had 2 byes, there would be an extra week. I wouldn't complain about that. And I just think like with how guys get just so banged up and you see so many injuries, like you sometimes need that off week to heal up, to get better.
It is amazing that they squeeze all that into like essentially 3 months of football. Like it is crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like I love that next year we have 2 byes. Now it's going to suck come those weekends when we don't play, but like looking back, it's nice to have. So,
but I'm sure at that point too, like when we were saying during our bye week this year, it couldn't have came at a better time, right? So I'm sure we'll be probably saying
the same thing
next year. Yeah.
So, well, that will do it for this episode. Jam packed, but we got to everything in under 40-ish minutes. So I will take that.
Oh yeah.
So, that will do it. We'll be back on Sunday going over hopefully the win against Rutgers. And yeah, so we'll catch you on the other side. So have a good rest of your week, Tyler. We'll talk to you later, and go Hawks.